Come on, come closer. Any last words? Eat this. Any last words? Eat this.
Time and space shall bend to my will. I'm putting an end to this charade.
Let the blade sing.
Hey folks, how are things going? The Witcher 3 collab began yesterday, and bringing Geralt home was a tad expensive, but still, he turned out to be quite the decent all-rounder unit, so come sit near the campfire and see how to best build him. Our little Witcher comes in as a Watcher, little play on words there, I see what they've done, but his speed is only 152, which is honestly a little bit sad. I do like my fast units, and 152 makes him not that great for PvP, but hey, he's still likely going to be good for everything else. When it comes to his trait, magic attack is unaffected by buffs and debuffs, and it's always equal to physical attack. This trait also gives him the Witcher potions, which are 4 different types, and you can have 2 active at the same time. We'll check these later. Starting on 2 stars, he gets a 20% crit, up from 10%, as well as regen 1 from using potions. This is another buff with the same duration of the potion themselves, so permanent regeneration 1. Moving up to 3 stars, the 20% crit rate is joined by an extra 1 tile movement, which makes him not as good as a Seeker, but still, 4 movements, we take that. When using potions, he adds damage reduction to the regeneration for 3 turns. Again, just damage reduction 1. 10% damage reduced, as well as a Quen shield at battle start. This is a 15% HP shield, it can potentially stack up to 4 times, and when broken deals 35% magic AoE damage to all enemies within 3 tiles, as well as a 1 tile knockback. One fun part about this is that when he has multiple shields, these things actually stack. That's mostly for his very own Quen skill, rather than his trait. At 4 stars, gets another 10% crit rate, regen goes up to regen 2 for 20% HP, and he also gets some extra debuffs. Physical defense down 1, magical defense down 1 on the target for 3 turns, depending on whether you're using physical or magical attacks. Still, it's only 10%, I think there's better debuffers out there. Not to mention, we are kind of waiting on Espinangal, who is going to come with her own magic defense down 3, and that's going to be fairly soon after the collab is over. Up to 5 stars reduces all skill energy costs by 1, which is kind of great, but it's also not really that energy hungry. Not as energy hungry as Ciri at least, so these shouldn't really come into play all that often. After using potions, regen 2, damage reduction 2, and the debuffs go up to physical defense down 2, magic defense down 2. At the start of battle, 2 stacks of Quen shield. Honestly, I think most of the improvements from 4 and 5 stars can likely just stay there. At least for me, Geralt is likely going to go to 3 stars and then stop there. Way too many units to level up, so I need to start cutting corners wherever I can. When it comes to his skills, I actually have everything unlocked. I decided to spend the unlock we got from the Proof of Strength on him rather than Iron Maether, because he's got a lot of potentially fun stuff in here. Let's start from rank 1, Igni. This is a sign skill which sadly, whenever used, puts all other sign skills on a 1-turn cooldown. There doesn't even seem to be any way to lower this cooldown, so between Agni, Ard, Yrden and Axi, you can only really use 1 per turn. Igni itself can be used as either an instant 20% fire AoE damage to all enemies within 3 tiles, and this also adds another 20% magic attack to Geralt's physical attack for the next attack, or as a 3x3 or hits 40% fire AoE damage. Before using this one, he also gets an extra 40% attack increase. And honestly, these little self buffs right before casting skills are one of the signature of this character batch, and they are also kind of high, because when it comes to attack buffs, one of the most common is attack 2, which is a 20% boost to physical and magical attack, or the co-attack and co-defense, which is another small increase up to 15%. On top of these, we've also been getting some little extras from like flags or in Crenza's case, Divine Radiance, but this is another 15%. So technically like 35 to 50% bonus attack is reachable when using many buffers, but for a single character to get a free 40% attack just by themselves, and the fact that this 40% attack then stacks on top of everything else, I think we're likely going to see some attack stats that are going way over the 10k. Another little bit of a bonus for the Igni sign is that this gives Geralt a 40% defense ignore for one turn. So you could potentially just do Igni rotation plus AoE finisher with a 20% extra damage and 40% defense ignore. Finisher, that is our next skill. 3 hits, 50% AoE damage to all enemies within 3 tiles of the character. Nothing special, but still, 3 tiles is a pretty nice range. Moving up to rank 3, we have the Ard sign. This gives Geralt either an instant knockback for the first target in a 1x3 area in the selected direction by 2 tiles, but if the target is too far, knockback is only 1 tile. The item section, not too sure where this could be useful. I guess it's either for exploding bombs, since this skill does not deal damage, or breaking down crates. But still, after the skill is cast, all the targets take 50% increased final damage from the character's next attack. And we're going to see what's going to come down on them very soon. Alternatively, Storm is not instant, but it knocks back the first enemy in each column in a 3x3 area by 4 tiles. This is another pretty nice large push. On the other side of rank 3, we have the finisher Rend, with a 180% AoE damage multiplier to all targets in a 4 tiles in front. And again, before attacking, another 40% boost to attack. From rank 3 already, these are possibly 2 Castalia-worthy skills, whether you want to go for single target focus or AoE damage focus. Moving up, we have rank 5 with Hardening for some extra damage reduction, or Fleet-footed, which reduces damage taken by 20%, add an extra 20% damage reduction for ranged damage taken. When targeted by single target attacks, perform dodge 1 time per round, and he also has assisted cover for other dimensional travelers within 3 tiles of the character. It's still just on physical attacks, but there can be some situations in which you run him with his other Witcher 3 collab units or Daneshi collab units, because they are all dimensional travelers, and you can just cover for 1 hit. Again, nothing crazy, but also not that bad. Up to rank 7, we have the Yrden Spin Attack, which, again, science skill. It's an instant, hits all enemies within 3 tiles and inflicts movement -2, speed -2, and vulnerable 2 on them before attacking them twice for 30% AoE damage. Movement -2 and speed -2 are honestly kind of great, especially for drawn-out battles for the second turn, because again, 152 speed, he's not that fast to be considered a proper debuffer. Vulnerable 2, we have to wait and see, mostly because in the Yennefer demo, they've shown us that she has a vulnerable 3 on her skills, so vulnerable 2 might actually be not all that important, where we have an upgrade coming out in 2 weeks. On the other side, Composure reduces damage taken by 20%. When attacking targets with Bound, damage increases by 20%. This doesn't seem so bad until we go up and see the leader skill, but I wouldn't really pick this one. When it comes to the basic attack, we have a powerful for 110% multiplier, or the ceiling which locks passives on injured targets. Honestly, I don't think we're going to use that many basic attacks, and I kind of do like the passive lock from the sealing attack, as it's just a 10% boost to damage. Up to rank 11, Axi Execution, another instant sign, before attacking inflicts stagger, which is a 1-turn stun and turns the character under bound, as well as passive lock and reaction lock on the target for 2 turns. then deals 70% damage. The whole staggered mechanics and extra damage on bound can be really nice, especially against normal tier enemies, but when it comes to bosses, a lot of them are kind of immune to bound, so I'm afraid we're not going to take that much advantage of this extra damage in the fights where it actually matters most. Bosses. On the other side, Bonds of Kaer Morhen, a nice leader aura for all dimensional travelers allies in battle. 10% attack, 20% defense, which is the standard, as well as a 10% increase in damage and pierce damage, which goes up to 30%, because this is additionally increases by 20% when attacking bound targets. This is potentially another 30% damage boost for Marseille, and it also sets him up as a pretty decent unit for future collabs, because all the collab units are always dimensional travelers, so this makes him a little bit of a future-proof unit as well. So I did the thing, but if I had to just pick and choose skills, I would honestly just go for Finisher World, Finisher Rend, Hard Sign, Fleet-footed, Spin Attack, Ceiling Attack, and Leader Skill. And there's probably an argument to be made for Ignisign as well, so I think you could get away with just spending 2 Castalias on him. As for his Ascension skill, this one is on the level 2, I need next week to hit the level 3, but each time damage is dealt, he gains 1 stack of Battle Trance, which is another boost to attack and defense, another free 10% attack and defense, and when dealing damage through Rend, that is 5 free stacks. When leveling the Ascension skill up, each stack of Battle Trance additionally increases damage by 1%, and each stack of Battle Trance additionally increases damage by 2%. So there's 10% boost to damage at 2 stars, 20% boost to damage at 3 stars, and this is going to be the next skill I'll be working on. When it comes to his gear, we have the Witcher swords right here. Before activating any sign skill, increases attack and defense by up to 32% until the start of the next turn. These start with a 16%, which is honestly quite big, and then I guess it scales linearly towards 32. But still, 1 star for a 60% boost to attack and defense. That's not bad, not at all, especially considering that sign skills are free to use, they don't cost energy, and most of them are instant, so that's an extra free 16 to 32% boost to attack and defense for the entire turn. We do also get an Astral Horde for the Witcher, but this is something I want to keep until, I guess, until Series banner. We should be getting these 3 banners one after the other. By the time Series comes out, we should get the new weapon box that's going to come with the Witcher Sword, Flames of the Fearless, and Obsidian Star. I do want to buy those boxes first. After buying those boxes, I guess I can spend the Astral Horde on whichever weapon I don't get. Not to mention, we still have to go through the Battle Pass, which is going to come with some extra custom molds to pull for some of these weapons. So again, I get the feeling that the longer I wait, the more value that ticket is going to have. But until we get there, for the time being, we've got the Void Stab right here, which increases crit rate by 15% and gives him a stack of Void after using any skill. This any skill use does seem to be counting potions, and he can drink 2 at the beginning of a turn, for 4 stacks on turn 1. That's a free 20% crit damage too. Don't really seem all that bad. Alternatively, I guess there's always the Newborn Blade. Blade of Stratagem does increase crit damage by quite a bit, but he can't really use the 14% from outside of his own turn, and I don't think there's anything else that interesting around here. When it comes to his accessory, it seems like he just wants stats and more stats, so a Origin Hourglass is honestly not the worst you can give him. The immunity to movement down and speed down is also fairly welcome. Otherwise, not too sold on the Maverick Cloak. This would give him an extra 12% attack and defense and another 20% crit rate for basically guaranteed crits at that point, but in order to make use of this, he needs to be alone, or at least have no allies within 3 tiles. And even though I'm sure he can survive being overextended, I think he's going to get most use out of this item if you can maybe teleport him around with the Yennefer, but otherwise he has 3 to 4 movement, and it might be better to just keep him around other units. Then of course we have the Shield of Justice, 9% attack and defense, and he gets a free 50% shield at battle start. Honestly, this is probably one of the best generalist items in the entire game. It's just a bit of a shame that it's kind of considered gacha and it's locked in a box that I haven't been buying in a very long time. I would need to bring this one to 3 stars, and I would need like 5 other copies of the same shield up to 3 stars to be happy. But for the time being, this one is locked on Asia and it's just going to keep on sitting there unless I need it for specific challenges. Otherwise, Berserker Incense, +1 movement, plus 10% damage for 2 turns. Sadly, this can only be used 1 time per battle, and despite having been playing the game since day 1, I've only ever gotten a single copy of this. I think it might also be kind of funny to let Geralt get drugged up even more, pop the incense on top of the potions, but I don't know about this one. Lastly, we come to the Tarot. Finisher Whirl, that's AoE damage, Finisher Rend, that's AoE damage, so it makes it kind of a brain-dead choice to go for the Dream of the Magician. If not for the Dream of Magician, I guess you could try and push for more crit with a Verdict of Justice, or if you have neither, Temptation of the Devil is always here for an extra 30% boost to stats, even though this does take a few kills to get there. As for the builds themselves, I personally do like the leader skill a lot. The finishers I do at least want one, so depending on if you're going against multiple enemies or if you're going against one little bit of a chunkier one. And then of course we have the one sign that we can bring. It's honestly a little bit of a shame. A character so versatile that you are forced to basically pick just 2 skills to play around with him. So for something a bit more AoE centered, I do like the Yrden spin attack, either this or Igni Sign, followed by the Finisher Whirl. And for something a bit more single target centered, I don't think you can beat the 50% boost to damage plus 180% multiplier from Ard and Rend. He does come with an extra innate skill, which is the Quench Sign. This gives him either 1 stack of Quench Shield as an instant or 4 whole stacks if used as a full skill. But this feels like something a bit more defensive, and I think it depends a lot on which map you're entering into, which I guess remains very in theme. Not only you are preparing potions in order to go fight enemies, you're also having to change your build depending on the enemies that you're about to face. I guess maybe the closest unit we can compare it to would be Revia. Again, the lack of movement sadly does cripple him a little bit, but there's not much we can do about that, at least until he goes up to 2 stars. Now, the potions. We actually get 4 different potions to choose from. We can use 2 at the same time. These are 35% self-heal as well as a extra 35% self-heal at the end of the turn. Thunderbolt increases his attack by 20%, but again, this is Thunderbolt. This is not an attack 2. It stacks. It continues stacking. Per potion, Tony Owl restores 1 energy at the end of the turn, and then extra energy after using any sign skill. And lastly, Maribor Forest, another 30% crit rate. That is only 10% at 1 star, but 20% crit rate for free at 2 and 3 stars, plus 30% from here, that's 50% crit rate just from his passives. If you can use anything else that boosts crit rate, like the daggers that he currently has on, the crit rate tarot, or again, if he's alone, the Maverick Cloak, that is basically guaranteed crits. I think the only negative aspect of all of this is that if you let him on auto, he basically just uses red and green potions.
Any last words?
That's Vault Vulnerable too. And Finisher Whirl.
Eat this.
150,000 damage. This is 1 star. Bro is this crazy at 1 star. 340,000 damage. I really can't wait to bring him up. The alternative here would be to replace the spin attack with Ignis Sign, just so you can get the 40% defense ignore from armor piercing, as well as the other 20% boost to damage here. But if we do this, we do end up running into another little bit of a problem. namely that the common logs have no defense. So we are ignoring 40% of nothing. Pretty sure this is going to be way worse as a damage boost. Always gray and green. There's our Igni rotation.
Eat this.
And there's our finisher world.
Any last words?
That's about the same, except for the fact that this also sets the ground on fire. And with the ground on fire, we know there's going to be Triss coming up later with her frost fire skills. So 290. It should be good. It should be really damn good. Again, these are kind of situational skills, but it's going to be either one or the other depending on whether you need more debuffs or if you just need to set some ground on fire. And yeah, considering that they both need to eat potions,
Don't mind if
that
I
makes
do.
them kind of similar to one another, doesn't it? Geralt
this.
just takes a lot more clicking in order to deal
Let the
damage.
blade sing.
That's a 25k non-crit. Unfortunate. I want to see how high it goes.
Come on, come closer.
That's a bit better from her too. This crit.
Let the blade sing.
There we go. 41,000 damage crits. Yeah, it seems like Geralt is working fine as an assassin as well. Not to mention, he doesn't even have the downsides that Astra does, since Astra debuffs herself with the side effects of her potions. Geralt doesn't get that. So, in conclusion, a real damn good unit. Very, very solid. Great for AoE damage, great for single target damage. Again, the only thing I don't really like is the fact that part of their kits, not only just him but Ciri as well, kind of revolves around the characters being bound somehow, and a lot of the bosses are just immune to that mechanic. But that's likely a little bit of a small damage loss coming down in the future for some of the harder stages, so we're going to have to wait and see how these units perform later down the line. But for now, I'm impressed. I'm honestly very impressed by how strong these guys are. Also, I wanted to add another little thing here. Geralt's banner goes from November 28th to December 11th. He's going to then be followed by Yennefer's and then Triss's. Triss's banner begins the day after Christmas, and it's also the only banner who does not get a rerun. Thankfully, they also keep a Ciri banner. Ciri is free, so no one is really going to pull on this one. These are just 15 extra days to save up resources, but if you're patient enough, I think it would be ideal to just do your first 10 pull on the Geralt banner and the Yennefer banner, since that 10 pull is 50% discounted, and then just wait for Ciri's banner to come out, and then pull for either Yennefer or Geralt, or both, if you want to try and go for both. Still, Triss is the only one who gets a banner and then no rerun, so if you're still undecided about who to go for, or if you want to take your chances, I think it might be ideal to just wait things out a bit. Get your Triss first, then wait for the Geralt and Yennefer reruns and pull for them there. Still, the collab had a pretty great start. The only complaint I have about it is the fact that everything is time gated. I would love to just play more, but there's nothing we can do about this other than wait. So, as we continue waiting, as always, thanks a lot for watching, good luck with your pulls going forward, and see you guys around soon. Ciao!
Cause he